Now it's time for the question and answer sessions, and the floor is open for any questions from the speaker. Yes. First, let me invite the speakers of the day, of the session, to occupy their seats in front of the audience. So please feel free to ask any questions or seek clarification from the speakers.
This is my card. All right, I will ask a question from Professor Veerasinghe because my question is, in the plan you have shown us, there were 2 half rings, but I have not seen radial connections. I feel that it may be very important in such a network. Can I show you? Yes.
PowerPoint.
Yes, yes. Probably we have not seen that already.
The audience is mainly students. There are no people to ask questions.
The question was about radial lines. Actually, this analysis was made on the basis of existing radial lines. So you can see the coastline there, and the main line there, and that's the Kalani Valley line.
Yes.
So as you can see, there's a big gap between the Kalani Valley line and the main line, and there has been some talk about a line following the Parliament Road, so to speak, which is shown here, right? So there are theories available even for radial lines, which I haven't talked about. I only talked about the semicircular lines today. One of the problems is that our coastline, because it's on the coast, only caters, it's a waste really, because half of the side of one half of the line caters to the ocean, so obviously nobody lives there. So the line doesn't really support as much land use as it could. And the Kalani Valley line is so slow that it's really hardly worth considering it to be a line.
Thank you.
Taking the cue from Professor Ranjit Perra, I would like to ask a question from you. But as you said, all the ocean, the railway line on the coastal line is adjacent to the ocean, but it is the highest income generation line as far as the railway sector is concerned. So I think it sufficiently covers the land mass that is being expected from that particular line. What is your opinion on that?
Well, the coastline is about 100 years old, over 100 years old, and the urban rail, not the intercity, but the urban rail on that, the power sets have been running for like 50 years. If you look at the demand, if you look at the demand on the line right now and compare it with other systems in the world, the demand is very low. It's about 30% of the world average. So that tells me that there's a lot more room to provide better service on that line, perhaps to increase the demand even more. I just didn't have time to talk about all this. Having these lines is not enough. You have to provide a really good service. So good service will cause increased demand, which will cause better land use, which can cause us to provide even better service. So it becomes an upward spiral. On the other hand, if you have poor service, less people will use it, then you can't afford to provide the good service. Demand goes down some more and so on. So it's a very complicated situation.
Thank you, sir.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I had a question about the shipbuilding industry.
Yes.
I thought your presentation was very impressive, very interesting. And so what else is needed to make shipbuilding a bigger industry? Like it's a one company industry right now, I assume. So one company, though very impressive, doesn't make a sector. So what else is needed?
Well, Doctor, I think there is no one single answer. But if you look at Japan, Korea, China, and other countries where shipbuilding has thrived, it has been a policy-driven strategy decision of the government. So if Sri Lanka is to move into that category, yes, it has to be somewhat policy-driven strategy. But we have certain deficiencies, like we don't have a huge kind of population like in China, but Japan didn't have such a population, Korea didn't have, but they were thrust industries that they looked at. These are some of the mother industries they call, which really give rise to a lot of other ancillary industries and technologies to come up. So shipbuilding is a heavy engineering mother industry, which gives rise to many other developments. So if you look at the Five Tigers, they've used this as one of the focal approaches for their technology development. So that's policy-driven approach has to come in. Second, of course, we may have to work on certain niches because we don't have steel, we don't have many other raw materials that is coming. So we can't pitch ourselves to be the largest shipbuilder like Japan did or Korea did. Perhaps we need to go into certain niches where we have a strength. Now what we have tried to identify is that when it comes to certain high-tech vessels, we've so far identified like the vessels that are required for the oil and gas industry, which are very small or comparatively small, but highly complex. For example, if you take about a mid-sized bulk carrier, maybe today's market price is about $25 million US. One of the offshore support vessels is also going at the same range, $25 million US. So size of the vessel is not what matters, the technologies that goes in. But in terms of engineering, it's a highly integrated vessel, very complex vessel. Small vessel, but compact with a lot of new technologies and so on and so forth. I think that's a strong area. So we may have to identify these niches through research and then come. The third obstacle would be challenging the international markets. Many countries come with subsidies and other schemes. India has about a 20% subsidy. China, we still don't know, maybe 30-40% subsidies given in various forms, not direct but indirectly subsidies. So that's a big impediment. But then we may not be able, as a country, we may not be able to support in such a way financially to these industries, but we could create some opportunities, avenues through free trade agreements and other things where we can enter into other markets. So there's a lot of strategy-based approaches that needs to come. But I think one important factor is creating the capacity. And I think Professor Jayatilaka was just talking prior to this session to me. We need people who can do these things. And unless and until you create that, I think it's going to be a real challenge. Dockyard's biggest challenge from day one is not market, but creating the human capacity. We spend a lot of time and effort on this thing. I think tertiary and vocational education and hands-on experience, building the right kind of attitudes on people to challenge these things. Perhaps a little, maybe we may have to go back and then understand where we have gone wrong in producing the, where we have gone wrong in producing the right kind of cadre for this country who can really get into this thing. Because what we need is not only technocrats and academics who can understand these things, but also the people who can implement these projects hands-on, take technology into their hands and then understand and go there down to the ground and then implement it and prove that it works. So that's a big challenge. I think that approach also has to come. I think universities has a lot to do with this thing, and we are working with Moratuwa and various other universities, including here. I think the future has a big role to play in that.
Yes, my next question goes to Engineer Anura Vijaypala. Anura, you mentioned that we have to double the current capacity even to reach 10% target. Almost doubling the energy produced. No? Can we reach this without new government interventions? There are various mechanisms in place, I know, but are we in a position to reach that? Or even the 20% targeted at 2020 without new policies and new interventions?
I think for the achievement of the target, biggest hurdle will be not only the support and encouragement and the opportunities given, but the technological issues. For example, there are plenty of investors ready to launch their wind power plants in the country, and there are resources available at many places throughout the country at many places. But unfortunately, our system, being an island, has technical issues. That is, wind is an intermittent source. So when wind goes up and down, there should be another power plant on backup. Because when the wind goes down, we can't knock power off some segment of people. So there should be a power plant backing up the operation. And the same problem is with the solar. We get it only for 9-10 hours a day. And in the peak time, solar is not available. Our peak is the problem from 6:30 to 10 p.m. So the backing up solar is very expensive, having storage. So these are the technical issues. And now we are looking at, the CB is looking at the possibilities of resolving some of these technical issues, especially through solutions like pump storage system. That is, when you have additional wind, you pump water up to a reservoir. And when you don't have wind, you use that water in a hydro machine so that you can complementary operation. So these are the solutions used in other countries. So we are also now looking at how to resolve these things. I think anyway, 10% target in 2015, in my opinion, is a possibility. But 20% target by 2020 is a little heavy on the present system.
I have one question from Dr. Vimal Siri. Sir, actually, what are the problems we face while we trying to market small pleasure crafts in Sri Lanka? If we discuss about other countries, actually, there is a high potential of high demand of small crafts and pleasure boats and all these things in all the other countries. But if we compare other countries with Sri Lanka, okay, money is one problem, but I feel, government also should support, people with some allowance for usage of pleasure crafts and all these things in rivers and all these things. What you feel, sir, while we try to market this?
Yeah. This all.
Yeah, thing is that actually now this is I could say just first now period. Sorry, first war period like now before during the war time actually there was no any freedom of operating a boat by anybody even in a lake like. But now you have some sort of a relax from the navy. But it's still I think it's not relaxed enough. I think more than 40 horsepower engine cannot be yet used by any user. Now that test I did actually with higher horsepower. Actually, you need higher horsepower to enjoy the boating. But I think government has taken some plan to actually develop these marinas and then have leisure boating and etc. And one thing, all that will depend on the economy of the people as well, because your first priority is to get a car, and then if you have more money, then only you go boating as a hobby like thing. It happened in other countries, not like in our countries. I think with the time goes on and with the development take place, probably there will be a good market in locally as well. But there is actually a market in the other countries like UAE and etc. But to find that market, you have to really do a lot of work. Just you can't be build a boat and test it and doesn't make the sales. You have to really go for it. You have to market it, and there is a market in the world. Actually, here in Sri Lanka, there are boat yards actually operated by foreigners, and they actually produce to the foreign countries. We have some BOA companies. They simply construct and supply to those countries. So, I think in the future, there will be a market for this kind of boat. But at the moment, I know a lot of people import these second-hand boats. Import second-hand boat used in these lagoons and etc. But so they should really go for the brand news, locally made. So there will be a market.
I think if I add a little bit to what Dr. University said, regulation of boat building as well as operation in Sri Lanka. Now you can't take a vehicle to the road, but you can take a boat to the sea easily. There's no registration or regulation or some control over this thing. What I am trying to say is not control to prevent it happening, to maintain standards, to maintain safety, because this is not, so you can bring almost anything and operate. So now if same thing happened to vehicles, you will see all the rust buckets and all the junk in the road. But it's not possible, because there is R&D, there is a registration process. But for boats, there is no, even the Department of Merchant Marine will not look at anything below 500 tons GRT. So 500 tons GRT is a large vessel. So leisure craft, pleasure craft will not come into that category. So this is an unregulated area. I think as far as I know, it is the local authorities like the Pradeshiya Sabhas which has the kind of authority to register them. They don't have competent people to look at these things. So this industry needs a lot of further development. True, it has been kept aside for 30 years because of the war. Now there are opportunities, and we need to seriously look at it. I think that's what happened with the whale watching and all the other things. Also, so many accidents because there is no proper regulation.
The market in Maldives, which is the closest neighbor as far as the industry is concerned, has it, with the development in Maldives, has it grown up? Or I was in Maldives a couple of times, a few months back. It looks to me it has dropped, or there's a significant drop in the market. Do you see any reason being the leading personality in the industry?
Yes, I think you'll have shared me. Yes, I think these are also parts of the challenges that you have to face when you go into international markets. Now, Maldives was a kind of a growing market for us. So we had to work with these markets in long term, because you are introducing new technology and new these things. So it's capacity building on their side also. You have to kind of do a, shake hand and tag along with them and develop their capacity also gradually, which we did very well. But unfortunately, political instability came in Maldives, which is beyond our control. And that again led into economic problems as well. Today I think it's more than the political instability, the economic problem is the key. But this is quite common, because it's not only for us. So we need to move into some other market. So I think what we learn from Maldives, we can make use to many other similar nations, etc. Now Seychelles is one area. We are talking to them, and I think there is a lot of opportunity for us to go around the globe. So we really can't depend on one specific market. So we may have to work on multiple markets. Of course, this is challenging for industries, because all this is costing a lot of money. You can't develop a market for 3-4 years and then suddenly drop and move on to another one and start doing that. But of course, that's the way life goes on. So when you have an opportunity, there are challenges. When there are challenges, there are opportunities. So they come on and off. You need to take it as it comes. But important thing is to learn from all these projects, because if you are purely looking at only Sri Lanka Navy and trying to cater for that thing, you wouldn't have seen the opportunities that comes in Maldives. And that can be developed further into oil and gas industry and other areas. So we need to keep our eyes open. So that's very important for this thing. Often I think Dr. said very correctly, manufacturing and industry has to come, and service sector. Ship repairing gave us enormous opportunities to, that's the service sector, learn about river vessels, technologies, how other things. So what we learn from ship repair, we try to put back into shipbuilding. We can't build every vessel that we repair, but we know certain vessels definitely we are confident of building. So likewise, capacity development has to take place. Continuous capacity development has to take place. So I think it's possible, but it takes a long time. We took 40 years. So the one reason for sharing this information is for other people to come into this industry. I think it's absolutely correct. One company is not a sector. We need a lot of other people to come. Now we import many components, many systems from abroad. So if that can be created here, there is a lot of opportunity for other people to come up, from switchboards to so many things. Cluster approaches, developing cluster. So one specific requirement is this government economic policy. The macro level, yes, but then when it comes to the next level, they must identify specific thrust areas. So in the maritime, harbors are very important, ports and shipping and logistics is important, but if it is totally dependent on, like is a transshipment, it may not necessarily take the country forward. It will generate revenue, it will pay for the loans, but not beyond that. But other ancillary industries will definitely give that kind of good base, because that's technology. So when you build ships, you build technology in the country, you build competence in the country. Then, if it is not local, war ended. We have not built the Sri Lanka Navy since 2005. 4 years before the war ended, we realized it's going to be end. So we already started moving into other international contracts. Since 2005, we have not built a single local contract. Not something to be happy about, but that's reality.
Yes.
Sir, as I know that you have built a lot of boats and some of the ships of Sri Lanka Navy, and you have moved to other areas and you have thriving well. But what I see is mostly your contribution is towards India. Indian market is the one you are tapping, and about 60 to 70% of your work, I think, on Indian ships or Indian-owned ships. And how vulnerable you are in this aspect. And other thing, you said that you are only looking at niche markets, but sometimes you may, due to the economic situation, you may lose some of these contracts, and only depending on niche markets will be little vulnerable. And other thing, being only player in the shipbuilding market, how you see the possibility of expanding ship repair market? As you said, the ancillary industries doesn't come automatically. If you have a thriving shipbuilding market, if you have competition in the shipbuilding market, there will be players who will come and invest, like steel processing, engine manufacturing, things like that. So I would like to have your thoughts on that, sir.
A lot of questions. Okay. Well, there is this apprehension and discourse about being Indian dominant in certain areas. But some of these are geographical facts which you can't avoid. India has a huge coastline. It has more than 1 billion population. For shipping is a key economic activity in India. And what we don't realize is Sri Lanka compared to that is a very small country with 20 million population. In terms of shipping, it doesn't generate the volumes that you require. So that is why we have to go for many transshipment cargo as well, because our production is very low with 20 million people and 6 million people working. And consumption is also equally low as opposed to this thing. So if you look at Korea, if you look at Singapore, if you look at Taiwan, you mentioned, they are always serving for a hinterland. So you must have this hinterland concept in your back of your mind. So India is our logical market. And it's difficult, it's challenging, it's political, it's big brother, maybe a little bit bullying. All that is true when it comes to big economies. That's how they are. So let's accept reality as it is. So we find India as a logical business opportunity. And we need to challenge that. But we are not only Indian dependent. It gives us a good opportunity, initial stages, to maybe hone our technologies, hone our capabilities, because it's easier market to break through, perhaps a little less organized, so maybe you can walk through. Sometimes if you are capable, walking in the jungle is better than walking on the road. I think people in the forces know this better than me. Isn't it? It's less susceptible to attack. So anyway, so India was a ground like that for us. Today we are not Indian dependent. But you said maybe correct 5 years back. Today India is also using China as one of their major repair facilities. We don't get that many Indian vessels coming into Sri Lanka, but we can't 100% avoid that also. We are building vessels for Singapore and other countries. Most of our vessels, actually there was a slide, they are operating in all parts of the world. It is not around India. So Indian entrepreneurship is highly developed entrepreneurship. India has entrepreneurs who can spend $300, $400, $500 million on projects for building vessels. And they are not building for the Indian market. So even the, if it is Indian ship owners, they are building for a global market. So you really need not worry too much on that, because these are not necessarily government sector. These are individual corporates. Most of the Indian businesses who are in oil and gas industry and other industries have set up their offshore facilities like Singapore and other countries. So they channel some of the business through these things, because it's globalized world. But as a country, we need to understand this thing and then look at these opportunities and then move forward. I think it's challenging, yes. Now the passenger vessels, who will build passenger vessels today? We can't suddenly jump up and build cruise vessels for the European market. But India has government projects which are building passenger vessels for Lakshadweep to mainland Kochi or Andaman and Nicobar to mainland, which are highly subsidized in passenger transportation, in terms of passenger transportation to commercial vessels, compared to commercial vessels. So only government of India can operate them. But projects are very large. The 400 passenger vessel that we launched today is around $30 million US. So two of them is $60 million US. So these are big projects which we can undertake. But that gives us the learning opportunity to build maybe for the commercial sector. So we need to make use of that as a stepping stone. So that is one. Then you also ask about niche market. Why I say the niche market is, if you are looking at large bulk carriers or container vessels or tankers, actually technology-wise there is no big improvement that you can gain. Because this is already standard designs. It's there. It's already developed by Japan, Korea, China. So like Dr. Vimalasiri said, we just need to copy one of those designs, maybe make a small change and then do some improvement and then compete with the average party. Now what we have gone, I didn't have enough time to present this in that length. We've used Norwegian designs. Now even this passenger vessel is a Norwegian design. But what we have taken is only the hull. We have taken the hull lines and the basic hydrodynamics, etc., etc. We've completely changed the internal integration. We've changed the performance characteristics. So that is where the value creation is. You have the carcass, you build something totally behind it. The house construction, I mean, in analogy, building a house, you build the walls around it, but what you do inside is different. So that is your value creation. That we can do. So we need to go into niches like that. If you try to invent the, I'm not trying to say that it is not good. It's a good exercise, but it will take time. We have got a lot of R&D, a lot of academics have to come. We will take another quite number of years for us to come up with our own designs in every area that we want to expertise. While doing that, we can't wait. We need to move forward. So we take the basic designs that is available globally. We review it and see, okay, this is something matching for our requirement. Today's technology requirement is this. Can we use this hull and then deliver this product? So then our job is not inventing the wheel. Okay, we have a hull. Let's try to meet the modern technological standards through this hull. Maybe even with the modification. We will do modifications to this hull. That's our expertise. Then we can come up, yeah, this is, although I say this is C-Tech design or most maritime design, these are all derivatives of the design. This is not the original design. Totally a different product that has come up. So that's the strength we can create. So we have to look at that way. I mean, there's no point trying to invent the motor wheel. My wheel. Wheel is already there. Try to use the wheel, build something on top of it. Perhaps that's very opportunistic, but that's how I see it.
So we come to the...
Otherwise your opportunity is taken by someone else.
We come to the end of this session, and it's my privilege to give a summary or highlight the important points. And what struck me today is that all the presentations, I think, focused on the need for policy-driven activities here, rather than things that come up as initiatives. And Professor Veerasinghe mentioned the need for a policy to develop the transport systems, and Mr. Yapa, the need to have a policy-driven industry, shipbuilding industry or ship repairing industry, which works as a driver or engine to drive other industries which support that. Then Mr. Vimalasiri touched upon this idea of developing this small craft, which also need policy initiatives to take it further. And Mr. Vijaypala about the policy regarding small electric generation systems. And also, I think I found it important that Professor Veerasinghe touched upon the idea of what a hub needs by way of building up of people, attitudes of people, where people are disciplined. And that I thought is an important feature in the groundwork that is necessary to make Sri Lanka a hub. Discipline and reliabilities are the two words he used. And he said it needs a cultural change. So that, and I think that we are not lacking in the technical capabilities. But when it comes to application, that's where we seem to be lacking, and I believe that education system, both the general education system and the technical education system must take up that as a challenge. The other thing that struck me was the need to approach these things systematically. And maybe we can learn from how we can model systems, the railway system that he spoke about. We didn't have the time to look at the modeling that went behind the design of railway systems. So I think maybe we can discuss this later in detail, and maybe he can share some of these capabilities with us, modeling techniques. Maybe that we should learn those things so that we can have this systematic approach to large systems. Then the other thing that struck me was the idea that we are not a small country in that way. Taiwan, as he showed as an example, is doing quite well because it has certain approaches to working and building up markets, both overseas and internally. And I think these are the things that we need to make our country a hub. And I hope we and the government of Sri Lanka will grow on these lines so that we can realize fully the government's vision. So let me close the session today. And I, of course, enjoyed myself very much listening to all these very interesting presentations. I'm sure all of us learned something today, and we'll take something home. Thank you.